Hey, can
Yeah,
you
I
hear
hear
me?
you.
Awesome. Hold on, let me grab.
I'm
How are
good.
you?
I'm good.
Good, good, good.
You can see
Hold
me
on.
clear?
I
Cool.
can. Okay. I got like my ultimate bright light on
Okay.
over here.
Yeah, I contemplated bringing mine down, but I'm like,
Okay, let's see. You know what? I'm thinking I might just use my good. We need to talk about this trip. You coming to you going where you going, Tracy? You trying to come to Texas still for your birthday? Let's see. Okay. Okay, here we go. Hey everybody. As you are coming in, say a hello. Let me know where you guys are listening from. And we're about to get started. We don't got no echo. We're good. Okay. Okay, so this week, let me back up. Last week we did a series on on the heart of a queen. Basically, we talked about DrFaraji. We talked about, hey Siobhan, we talked about how the heart of a queen should
okay,
look, and I did a comparison of Delilah, Ruth, and
okay.
Esther. And we talked about, like, there's some things that I really think this conversation is going to line up about that. But I believe that having a heart of a queen provokes something from the king, and that was kind of like the common thread that I saw with all of those stories. Hey Nia. So anyway, tonight, you guys, we're going to talk about the heart of a king, but give you a male perspective, because as a woman, I can definitely speak to being a woman. I can share revelation or information about a man, but I think it's really great to hear from a king himself. So introducing to you guys DrFaraji Touré. He has like an extensive background with education, theology. He reads a million books. So this is going to be a really good conversation. I just know it. And so he has really great perspective to offer you queens and kings, and even for some from the kings out there to listen to this, it just may resonate with you. And you be like, man, thank God, somebody to really articulate that. So we're just hoping to, be able to just, touch everybody across the board. So how are you doing
I'm doing all
today?
right. I'm relaxing. Doing all right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So the first thing, I know I sent you like a list of things. I'm gonna formulate them in question form or whatever the case, or even just conversation, however we get it going. But one thing that I thought was really intriguing when we the reason that this conversation was provoked was I heard something that I had never heard before. Now, sometimes, again, having grown up with a dad in the home but not necessarily invested in conversation, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? There's some good things that I know my dad shared with me, but there's some things that I know that as an adult woman I'm hearing for the first time. And so you shared something that I just thought, a lot of people probably, might be missing, you know what I mean, if nothing else. And so you shared with me, we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
courting, and you were saying that, you was like, as a man, you said something like courting is not reciprocated initially. So let's just start
Okay,
there.
yeah. So again, it might not be everybody's reality, but this is what I was taught growing up. Now, again, my father passed away when I was 13 years old. So um, he was a teacher by nature, you know what I mean? So he always taught me. So in the realm of dating, is this like, oh, you're gonna find your little girl? Well, actually, you know what? Outside of the whole, you're gonna find your little girlfriend one day. I snuck across the street early in the morning to go see the girl across the street when I was living in California and caught a whooping behind it. So that's when he started to notice that, I was into women and he wanted to, kind of nurture that. So in the realm of courting, I was taught to believe that courting is not reciprocal at first. So it's for the man to show himself approved, to show himself a viable candidate. So whatever that may look like for the man, right? So he might want to write poetry, sing songs. Back in the day, we used to make mix CDs for the girls that we liked. All
You
right. So
know it.
whatever we did to make ourselves known as a viable candidate or make our feelings known, and it wasn't reciprocated at that point. It was no expectation that she would be invested in you. You know what I mean? Well, not invested in you. I have an interest in you initially. You know, you just show up, hey, listen, I like you. You might want to, you know, ask for dates or and I think even now that has converted some way into talking. As an adult, we really don't understand what talking is. But, you know, as we were growing, we kind of, oh, I talked to this person or I talked to that person. But that was initially rooted in courting. You know, you want to get to know or have that woman get to know you. And then at that stage to where, um, you know, she might be receptive to your courting, and then you move into the, hey, listen, you know, have I been a good courter? I would like to, you know, go on a date with you. I would like to take you out, or you jump to, hey, I would like to date you. And then at that point, the interest is reciprocated. You know, hey, you know, he's shown himself. He's been consistent. He's been you know, attentive, things like that. So yeah, he has shown himself to be a good quarter, so we can kind of move to the next phase of things. So that's how I was raised.
So, and what's interesting is because oftentimes I've had conversations with, different male perspectives that say, we tired of showing up, doing all of these specific things, to get a woman to like us, so to speak. Like, as a man, like, what would you say, or what are your thoughts on that? Like, is there a time where you just get sick and tired of showing yourself, or so to speak, showing yourself as a worthy candidate? Like, what are your thoughts as a man who has the stature that you have?
Well, yes, yes, men do get tired because some women have taken advantage of that. You know what I mean? So you've always heard men talk about these free male women or these women who just accept gifts, but they have no interest in the man. You know what I mean? That's on the fault of the woman. But if a man is trying to court a woman, right? So he's trying to get her attention because normally the way it went is like if a man approached you, hey, and then he got to know, like, you know what, she might be a viable candidate for me. Hey, I like to court you. You know what I mean? So that's kind of establishing, hey, listen, I'm thinking that there might be something here. Let me go ahead and start this process. But if a woman is stringing a man along, right? Or maybe he's just not getting a hint even, you know what I mean? Like, she really don't like you. You have to kind of cut it off. But men, again, are hunters. We're persistent, sometimes ignorantly persistent. And we don't catch that signal that, hey, she might not be interested in me. Let me just fall back. Because a lot of times, even in this age of ghosting people, a conversation needs to be had. Like, hey, you know, I'm courting you. I'm not really, you know, not getting you're not receiving me well, you know. And then, hey, listen, I'll fall back. We can continue to be friends or just be cordial in passing, etc. But then you kind of move on. So you spend a significant amount of time attempting, and to each individual that might be a different length of time. You know, dude might give you 30 days. Dude might give you 60 days, another 90, whatever. That's on the individual. But yeah, dudes get tired. Dudes get real tired.
Now, you brought up consistency, persistence. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believe, and when I use the term king, obviously we don't possess any kingdom, essentially, as far as to like land or
Right.
countries or anything that
Right.
concern. What does being a king mean to you?
Being a king encompasses just it encompasses a certain set of values, basically. You know what I mean? So a lot of times we hear the
Mhm.
word king thrown around on how this person is showing up in a woman's life. You know what I mean? But there's some principles that a man has to stand on, whether he's in a relationship by himself, providing or not providing. You know, and that's a man. Well, the foundation tenet is being a man of his word, standing on his word. And then being loyal to whatever he agreed to. That's in platonic relationships and romantic relationships. being a man, there's nothing better than a man who is who he say he is, does what he says he's going to do. So interwoven in that, you have things consistently, not just in a relationship in a relationship form, but is he consistently employed? Is he consistently a nice person? Does he consistently show up for his family? Does he consistently show up for himself? If he's a great advocate of himself, because we've all known these individuals that kind of sway with the wind. They friend made the decision, he gonna roll with what the friend did. Kind of like I hate to use the word a wimp, but he kind of pushed around by life, let alone somebody else. But a man, the foundating tenets of a man is his principles. And standing on his word. Because that's all we have. When you don't have property, you don't have a job. All you have is who you are, and that encompasses some certain values of being an upright man. Like just being a good person, a person that has the ability to. He might not have a kingdom, but he knows what it takes, or he at least
Yeah,
encompasses the energy to provide, protect, and everything else that comes with being a king and standing up for himself.
that's good. So you mentioned you don't necessarily like, and neither do I like the word wimp or coward, but I believe that there is definitely I think that, I mean, there's a lot of things that I believe that like go that fuel the fact that some men are just in a place where they feel beat down, they show up kind of beat down, they don't necessarily show up with audacity, they're not as bold, and
Intentional.
there's a lot that goes into that, right? So life has happened, loss of jobs, loss of loved ones, being manipulated or misused, and there's so many things that that kind of, I want to say, feed or fuel into a person or a man not showing up. Because I've heard women will be like, well, man, I've heard women actually call guys a coward, but I've also heard them describe what they would feel as cowardly behavior. What would you say about, for one, like, I think there's two things that we could compare, right? A person who's just simply not bold, and a person who's gotten to a place where they're probably showing behaviors that are less audacious, you know what I'm saying, or they're afraid, right? There's cowardly can be afraid of something, right? Rejection or whatever the case may be. Like, what are your thoughts
Well,
on that?
normally, cowardice or cowardly act is avoidance of conflict. You know, a person don't
Mm,
want to address something. You're being a coward. You know what I mean? Go ahead and confront it. So, in the realm of relationships, platonic or otherwise, is communication. That person is not
mm,
advocating for themselves; they're avoiding it. And there's a lot of there's a difference between a person being a coward at his core and committing a cowardly act. Ghosting is a cowardly act.
mm,
You should have a conversation, advocate for yourself, let them know that this is not the path you're trying to go down, and but you don't. That the conversation needs to happen, or you don't. You just decide to take the coward's way out and not have the conversation. And we've all done it. We've all done it. There's some things that we
yeah.
just feel like we don't have to address, we don't need to address, we shouldn't address, and I'm just going to let it be what it is. But that's a cowardly act. He might not be a coward at his core. He might show up in every other aspect of his life, but when it comes to dealing with his mother, his wife, his sister, whomever
Mm,
that's wielding that power over him that he does not want to address. So yeah, it's a lot of people out here, a lot of men that are cowards. Even showing up in life, they're cowards. They just kind of like go with the flow. They're not intentional about what they want, what they do. They just kind of, if this
mm,
can happen, that's a coward's way out, or that's a cowardly way of living. You don't really want to press for anything. You don't want to go after anything. You just kind of let life happen. And if some wins happen, you cool. If some losses happen, that's fine too. But that's being a coward at your core, not just cowardly act.
mm. Now, what would you say to a woman who is in a relationship with a person that is displaying a lot of cowardly acts? Like, what would you say to a woman in that scenario? Because oftentimes, give up or not give up, let go, whatever word you want to use. You know what I'm saying, is the direction that a lot of times people are pressing. But what would you say
Well,
to
it
that?
depends on what those cowardly acts are. 9 times out of 10, if those two individuals are in a relationship, it's some type of communication flaw, right? So let's just say that the man, I mean, his feelings are valid, right? Not his actions of being a coward, right? But maybe there's some type of communication flaw to where she's making him feel like he want to avoid her now. She might have bit his head off, you know what I mean? Just, henpecking, that's what we call it. Henpecked him or made him feel some type of way so he doesn't feel safe to express himself, to her for whatever it is. It might be delivering bad news or going against something that he said he couldn't meet the level of standard that he set, right? Okay, baby, we're gonna get this house, and then, oh, my credit ain't right. So instead of having that conversation about, oh, I'll figure it out, and he's just avoiding, and that's a coward. But again, it depends on what that cowardly act is. But in that example, it's just, it could be that she made him feel some type of way about communicating with her. Because I refuse. It happens, but I refuse to believe that you know a dude a coward before you get with him, and now you're complaining about it, right? So this may have something that just shown up all of a sudden, like, oh, he's showing a lot of cowardly behaviors. And you can conversate, make him feel safe to divulge what that is, and y'all can work towards him standing up for himself. Because a lot of times men need a little push. They need, friends, family, girlfriend, a wife, whatever, to pour into him and let him know that it's safe to communicate, the not so good stuff to him. So
That's good. That's good. So now what you're to me, we this is a good segue because a lot of times in those positions, like a woman would want, a lot of women that, and even myself, like, I want a man who leads. I want a man who leads. I want a man. And that would imply he can't, that he has to have less cowardly behaviors or acts than he does, being bold and
right.
audacious and stuff. Well, so when you now, when you're in a relationship with somebody who now has who is bold and they're taking on that position of leadership and whatever the case may be, now we're getting to this place. What does it mean to lead? I posted
Mm-hmm.
something up that said a leader is not just a person who has like a bunch of followers, but one who can recreate
Right.
leaders. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So what does it look like to lead, and talk about, leading from your perspective?
And that's really it, because even in the corporate world, you are measured by how many leaders you produce, not just getting somebody to do what you ask them. You want to develop leaders. You want people to think for themselves in case you're absent, right? So that's how they measure you in the corporate world. Like, okay, well, when you're out on personal leave or something happens to you and nobody can step in your shoes, what are you doing? And as a management executive or executive level person, you don't you don't want to have a bunch of followers. You want to develop leaders, because your success is measured by the success you create in others. So now in a realm of personal relationship is a sharing of information. So let's go even deeper in the relationship sense, right? You're with somebody, and yes, your job as a man to be the leader, right? So even I was speaking to you, a lot of people believe that the hierarchy is the man, then there's the woman, and then there's the children, etc. And that's not the way to look at it, right? So even again, you can correlate this in the corporate world. The man and the woman is side by side, right? So you have a president and a vice president. The president, something happened to them, the vice president can step in. So you don't keep them in a submissive position. You want to teach her everything that you know. You want to teach her, or she could come with the attributes to lead herself. But a leader encompasses seeing the bigger picture, right? He. I guess for terms of in a kingdom, he surveys everything. Everything under his control. He want to have organized. He want to have well taken care of. He wants to make sure everything is in order. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it encompasses a lot of different aspects depending on what you want to drill down to. But basically, you just want to have order. You want to make sure everything is covered and taken care of. So even I think one time we spoke about what was it? Not providing. It was protecting. It was protecting.
Yeah.
It's not just physical. It's emotional. You know what I mean? So, and you know what I mean? Is all of those things that you can say you want to protect in that aspect, not just for the fact of, you know, I could beat somebody up that disrespects you, you know, because there's always somebody bigger and badder out there that may do you harm, but you want to protect your partner's heart. You want to protect those children and other aspects like that.
So leading, that's really good because that's so good because when you talked about like even submission, right? I want to dig into that a little bit, even though we're going to really expound on it
Okay.
tomorrow. But let's just a smidget about submission because when you say, because there's
I said just a smidgen. Okay.
just a smidget. So because what you said was interesting when you said that a woman and a man, they're side by side and not putting them in a submission position. Like, what's the difference between submission and a submission position?
Submission in the submission position. Well, it's the submission position is we were talking about the hierarchy. You know, and a lot of people think that this is, you know, I guess like the triangle. There's the man at the top and then the woman at the bottom, right? That's a submission position. Like, you know, you may not um, know as much as I know. You know, I have to, you know, um, I have to look over you too. So in that position, she's a dependent, right? She's not a partner. She's a dependent. Well, she may have value come through, and the relationship may be fine. But when you think of it like that, you know, she's a dependent, right? You know, somebody who depends on you when she should be a partner. So, you know, two heads are better than one. That analogy, right? So, and at
Mm,
that point, you have to submit to each other in certain things. So, the things that I know, I teach you, and the things that you know that I have to submit to you, you have to teach me. You know, it's not like, okay, well,
mm-hmm,
not that you have less value, but I have to look over everything. Things don't, I may not have to share everything with you, right? I may have to, you know, look over you at times when that doesn't work for me. You know, it's just raising somebody up. You want to side by side that partner. So that's the difference for me in a submissive position than submitting. Submitting, that's fine. We have to submit to each other every day, all day. You know, the things that you're knowledgeable about, I have to submit to you in order to accomplish whatever we need to accomplish, learn whatever we need to learn, right? I'm not putting you in a submissive
mm-hmm.
position to where, okay, well, you know, I'm the head, I got veto power. What you say don't really makes, you know, is not going to move anything when you should confer in your partner and, you know, y'all make decisions together.
Okay, that's good. So, hey, Michelle, she said, this is good. Hey, hey, hey. You talked about valuing it, you know, the word and of a man and of a king. You're saying that you should always basically be in alignment to like what you say. What you say is who you are. When you put your word out there, it's not just in your romantic relationship. It is you know, yes, hey Melanie. Yeah, she said, I like this, breaking it down, submit to one another. So yeah, so you were talking about there, I just lost my place. Okay, so valuing
Right.
your word. So value your word and the value of your word, and how you essentially kind of hit on it to where you just said like it's not that your word means more than your partner, you know what I'm saying? And you know, let's talk about that because I know that in relationship, in some of the relationships I've coached, you know, I always talk about voice value. I oftentimes talk about voice value where somebody's voice doesn't hold enough weight in the relationship. So there's like, I mean, legit, I've seen it to where a woman will have a really great point and the man has diminished the value of her voice. Now we can get there for different reasons, whether she's misused that value and stuff like that. But I'm talking to it from a health, let's just say from a healthy
Okay.
standpoint, where she's been respectful and honored him and things like that, but her voice is not holding enough weight for consideration. Let's talk about that. Just the voice, the value of your voice, and then the value that you place on voices, period, like whether it's the children or whomever. What does voice value look like as it pertains to the heart of you as a king?
Voice value is very important, and in a healthy relationship, there really wouldn't be too much of an issue. It comes down to delivery. But if you would talk through things, right? Because what tends to happen is when somebody bring up an issue or something we need to discuss, somebody withdraws. Somebody's over, what's the word, like really abrasive about it. and not coming with a
Mm,
heart of understanding. You know what I mean? Like you want to understand your
mm,
partner because
mm,
again, this is your partner. This is somebody you decided to do life with, right? So the voice
yeah.
has to have some value, has to hold some weight. Even if you do not take, let's just say it's a suggestion. If you do not take the suggestion, right? Because not that yours is better,
Mm,
but it'll work better this way, you have to consider it, right? Because that's somebody watching your back. They have a different perspective. So you might be tackling a thing head on, and this person is seeing it from a different perspective. You need to listen to that perspective, right? Because it'll give value to your decision, right? To have this different perspective, somebody who cares for you, and you two have to govern your family, right? So you have to consider it, even though it might not be the best choice. You have to consider it. It may add something else, to the response you give to whatever situation. So you have to, and that's done through, just conversating. You have to reason together. Okay, let's hash this out. It's just like, the war room or the boardroom. You kind of work through the issues here, and then you present the ending result to the world. So we have to get it together in house first, work through our issues, what's the best route to take, and then you give a response to the world. So it has to have value, and if it doesn't, I mean, there's a myriad of things that could cause why it would.
absolutely. Yeah. So that like reminds me of, because I've had also scenarios where a man values the wife's voice, his woman's voice so
Mhm.
much that he allows their family to like, go into a situation that's less than the best for their family out of love. And it just reminded me of like, like Adam. I feel like if Adam could have listened to what she said, like you said, consider it, but then be like, you know what, but this isn't the best move for the house. You know what I mean? For the
Right,
household, this ain't the best
right,
move. Right. I think of, I personally think of Bible stories, but I'm like
right,
Abraham. Same thing. Sarah, like, hey, let's go have a bit. What are you doing? Like, there are times where I believe God gives, God, I believe there are times where God may give, us ideas as a woman. And again, like you said, and consider it. I think that's wisdom to
right,
consider. But then I also believe that there's times where, meanwhile, back at the ranches, I would say, some of the ideas may be good, but not necessarily the best. So I think that's good, like you said, that every voice should
right.
have value, but at the same time, considering, and like you said, doing that work on the
Because
internal
what I
before you
always
present
say,
it
and I
out.
say this time and time again, everybody wants a decisive man until he makes a decision that they don't like, right? So, I mean, oh, I need a
Mm,
man to lead and make decisions for the family. Then he make a decision that she don't like, and then now she's giving pushback. So you have to those one of those moments to where submission comes into play. Like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna fall back. I thought my idea was good. I'm not gonna give this man hell about making a decision that I didn't like, after we talk. Like, again, this is a
mm,
healthy relationship scenario, right? So the opposite end,
yeah.
a man is getting pushed. Oh, that's stupid. I don't know why you did it that way. That's stupid. And it'll go on for days. Oh, let me tell you what stupid decision. Like it might not work out, right? And then her way would have been better, right? So now you're making him feel like a chump, right? Now you're making him feel less than because he tried it his way and it didn't work, right? And
Yeah.
now, there's too
That's
many
good.
scenarios. Like even if tried your way might not work. But if you are saying to this man, "I trust you," you are the leader, right? That's what you're the head. You are the head.
Yep.
Not I hate using leader. You're the head of this household, right? And he make a decision and it don't pan out well, and you making him feel like crap. So he may overcompensate. Well, what you want to do, baby? What you think? What you think? Now,
Mm,
now you the boss now. You know what I mean? Because you made him feel like such crap because his way didn't work, or you gave him so much hell for not considering or not taking your advice. Now he's overcompensating. He won't make a move without you. Now on the positive end of that spectrum, what is good to pick up the phone in your area of expertise. You know what I mean? Somebody's talking to me about marketing. You know what? Hold on. That don't sound right. Let me call Bay up. You know what I mean? Hey, he's talking,
mm,
it's okay to confer with your partner in that. But the overcompensation of, oh, what you want to do, what you think is the best rule. Like that's one of the pressures that you need to take off your woman. You know what I mean? Like, and I told you, like, I don't think that is a good idea, and I might be getting off track here a little bit, to have a man, I have a woman completely lean on a man, but to some degree that has to happen. You know what I mean? Because the partner have to lean. Like when I need to lean on you, whether it's, you know, to lay my head on your shoulder and cry, to get something done, that's one thing, and to have the woman lean on the man is another thing. But some of those things, as a king, you're supposed to take that pressure off of the woman. You know what I mean? There's no reason she need to be arguing with a bill collector when you could pick up the phone. There's no reason that she should be the face of the household situation. She should be able to rest in those moments knowing that you took care of the situation.
That's good. So I want to share something. So, well, for one, as I'm about to find this note that Melanie wrote, because she said, okay, I'm very strong and I'm one who really has to learn how to relax, learning to allow my king to process my voice and emotions instead of demanding actions to my insight. Mm, that's
Right.
good. Um, you got a
No, that
response?
was good. That was good.
She said, Chad, I used to push all the way back. I mean, I can say watching draw near to God and be led by God, I can follow him wholeheartedly. Okay.
Okay, cool.
So when you talked about a woman shouldn't lead, it just kind of took me into a place of thought when you said she shouldn't lean all the way on the man. Because that can be taken in so many ways, and I'm pretty sure not everybody
Right,
will agree. But what I just heard in that, though, it kind of, like you said, it puts us in a position to be able to share the
uh-huh.
load, and whatever that looks like. And I think that a lot of times when we have conversations like this, people assume that the man always makes more
Right,
than the woman. People assume they're automatically going into with thought that my husband is going to make more than me, he's going to be the person to be able to take care of all of these things. And by us telling ourselves this, and then and even if that is your reality, like you said, we are not positioning ourselves, as I talked about even last week, we haven't positioned ourselves in
right,
partnership. And I like that. I like what you said, is like positioning yourself to be a partner, or are you positioning yourself to be a
right,
dependent? And then and when in the case where you're positioning yourself to be a dependent, you're forsaking
right,
your voice. Because a lot of times, you know, even now, like how many of us are allowing our children to come in and run our household? Nobody's gonna raise their
right,
hand, I'm sure. But because they are dependent, you're like, I can consider what you say, but the final word is definitely going to be
right.
on me, because you are the dependent. You're having to rely on all of what I'm putting out, you know what I'm saying, in order for you to eat and what have you. So I think that's a really great perspective that you
But let me give
shared.
you
Go
let me
ahead.
give you just a little more context into that statement. It was just, you don't want to lean on your partner to the detriment of him or to the household. You know what I mean? Because
Got
I've seen those instances come to where it's just like she might be making money, right? She's not destitute. This is not the housewife who doesn't have anything, right? But she's keeping her money, and she got a hand out all the time. Oh, I need $500 for this. I need $200 for this. I need to get this done. Oh, why don't we go do this? Why don't we go do that? And you're putting stress on him. But okay, so you want him to cover the bills, right? He's covering the mortgage, whatever the case is, whether y'all do big bill, little bill, whatever that type of thing is. You have to just be mindful. You just have to be mindful. So there's nothing wrong with if he's paying, let's just say the major bills, and you paying cable or whatever the case, and say, babe, I'm gonna treat you. Let's go out to dinner or whatever the case is. You don't want to solely lean, you stashing all your money, or even in the aspect of, okay, well, he's covering everything, you covering the children, but you still got your hand out all the time. That's what I mean. You leaning towards him. I mean, leaning on him too much, and you don't want to do that to the detriment of your relationship because it's stressful and it's frustrating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Y'all, this is so rich. Big man, I got to use this GPS to get home. I'm here for it all. And so I would definitely say detriment. And that goes back to the very simple principle that I believe that every relationship should use to measure, you know, the progress of your home. Are you being fruitful and
Right,
multiplying? Like, that's really what it boils down to. If anything you hear in these conversations don't draw fruit to your relationship, then
right,
don't use it. But if it's something that can help you be fruitful in your communication, be effective in your communication so that you can be fruitful in your relationship, then
Right.
go for it. But I like what you said about not leaning to the point of detriment. I want us all, and this is what I appreciated about having this conversation. He talked about, and we'll talk more about tomorrow, the, you know, the dynamic of him and the woman. However, today it was what's on his heart. Like, how do you know, what does leadership look like? All these other things. And I'm hoping and praying that I remember a thought that I want to share, but I feel like it's going to be really great for tomorrow. Being said, it's when you're talking about this whole, you know, the detriment, just really be mindful that, you know, you know, he as a man and as a king, and he talked about that being a disposition of his actions, his word. You know, it was really a reflection of the foundation that he's of principles and belief systems that he stand up on, that you're considerate of one another, because that's what he just stated, was that he's considerate of her, as just as I would say, and I said last week, that she should be considerate of
Right.
him. So I shared last week, you know, really briefly before we wrap up, that I shared, like, you know, like in a situation with who was it? Oh, let's say Esther, right? Esther was, you know, she was, I believe, a queen at heart. So what she did was, there was a part in the Bible where she was going to go and approach the king, but she didn't just position herself to be like, because she's entitled, let me just go knock on the door and do whatever I want to do because I'm the queen. She considered him. She considered that this was, you know, his rule was that nobody basically go into that, you know, into his court. But you know, but she stayed in a position where she wasn't looking like she was, you know, what did I just say, where she was entitled. And that was
Right.
consideration. And so I believe that a lot of times, when what we, you know, what I want us to do is, like, similar to what you talked about, is be considered and not be in a position of
Right.
entitlement. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, but I want to thank you so much for your time. Apparently people got some really good nuggets from it, and I'm hoping that you did. If you guys found value in this conversation, please share it. You know, tag the people you know in the video that you believe could gain value from it. And then join us again tomorrow at 7:30 Central Time for another wonderful conversation about the heart of a king. So thank you so much, Dr. Faraji. Have a
Having me.
great evening.